друзья, наши гости приехали. And in a couple of minutes we will start our traditional public seminar. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce you today our honorable speaker and guest, Karel Janeček. He is accompanied by the representative of the Czech Republic Embassy and also his wife. And I would say that I think it's not occasional that such a person as young as Karel is presenting today. I think that you already have read about him in the introduction that our rector Sergei Guriev sent to all of students, staff and faculty of the new economic school. But nevertheless, I would say that the biography and the career path of Karel is something very, very close and very familiar to the NES community. Because he has his first degree in probability and math from the Czech University in Prague. He got his PhD in mathematical finance in prestigious Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. He also holds MBA degree in finance from also one of the best American programs. But he's not only a researcher, he's not only a mathematician, he's also a businessman, a known of the his own company, and I think that Karel will share this experience and some reflection of it with us. There are a lot, not a lot of course, but there are some examples of very, very very close to this path, career path, stories among NES graduates. For example, we have Alexander Girko, who is a mathematician. He holds a PhD from candidate of science, actually, from the Moscow State University. He became the head of quantitative research at Deutsche Bank, and then he became the owner of the company, like yours company, now in London. And the good news also, maybe it will be also some example for you, he invites and hire NES graduates as a member of his team. And I wonder why people so smart, so talented, so rich, I would say, who can and who do earn money, then became interested in things like what's the future of democracy, what's the future of civic society. Karel is the founder of the Anti-Corruption Foundation. And also I know that one of the goals of your endowment fund, is support of young, or I don't know, maybe not young, but faculty in economics, for example. And recently you supported or how to say, endowed some younger researchers' positions in SERJ. SERJ is, I think that most of you know, that SERJ is similar to NES institution in Prague. It's a graduate school, a very prominent graduate school of economics in Prague. So, Karel Janeček, welcome to New Economic School.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые дамы и господа. Я немножко говорю по-русски, я учился это много лет тому назад. Я буду лучше говорить по-английски. So, thank you very much for the very, very kind invitation. I would like to thank you for invitation here to have the opportunity to speak. As you heard, I am a mathematician, I'm a businessman. One can say that I'm a successful businessman. The company that I started, company called RSJ Algorithmic Trading, is the largest trading company in London, Euronext Live. And in fact, we are also third or second largest trader in Chicago at Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Nevertheless, in this speech, I will not be talking about the company. I will not be speaking about how we trade. We do market making. Of course, if there are any questions afterwards, I'd be happy to share some information with you. I will be speaking about civil society, about the future where we face. And yes, that was a very good question of you. Why me as a successful businessman, as a mathematician, why do I care about corruption, which is what I will be talking about. So maybe we will find out. So let me first, because I'm a mathematician, I like to make precise statements and precise definitions. So what is corruption? How do we define corruption? Or let me state a question. What is worse, corruption or bribery? Or is it the same? So before I answer this question, let me say the definition of corruption. So corruption is an activity of an individual person, a physical person, such that this person intentionally, it's important, it's not an error, it's intentionally behaves in such a manner so that it hurts the institution or the institution that the physical person represents. So there are two major things. It is intentional, and it is a behavior that hurts, that is against the interest of the institution. And actually there is a third factor. The person who does this behavior gets certain advantage out of that. Usually it might be in monetary terms, but it doesn't have to be. It can be different kind of options, extra advantages. So that will be a definition of corruption. Now, during my speech, I will show the Czech Republic as an example, as a case study for you, and you might be able to infer some implications for your country, for Russia. I'd say that from this point of view, we in the Czech Republic, we are already behind privatization. I will talk about it a little bit. You here in Russia, you still have a lot to privatize. And in the Czech Republic, we already privatized, and we are having problems with corruption now, very serious problems. Let me say a statement which I will answer during my presentation, and my statement is that the big corruption that is in my country will not be there within 5 years. So that's a very strong statement, and you can think about it. Why can I make such a statement? I will explain. So we have a choice. We can either live in nice cities, clean cities, we can enjoy our life, be prosperous. Everybody wants to be rich, obviously. Everyone wants to have a good life. That's one alternative. The other alternative is that we will live in ruins. And it's not only us in the Czech Republic, it's entire Europe, United States, and maybe also in Russia in the long run. So, and that is the answer to your question. That's the first answer. I want to live in this city. I do not want to stay in ruins, even though you might be rich or I might be rich, but it would not help you after all. I realize as an analytical person that if we continue the way we do now, we will end up like that. So that is not good. So that's what we want. If you are young people, most of you, so you still maybe don't have kids, but if you have kids, you want them to learn, to be happy, to sport, to laugh. You do not want your kids to be searching for food to fight and to hardly survive. So this is now, I will state here a few problems that we have. Not us as the Czech Republic, not only us, entire Europe, and perhaps also Russia, and perhaps also the United States. It's not limited only to Europe. So the problem of today's world, of many countries, is that people are just not willing or able to accept personal responsibility. We do compromises. When we see something wrong, usually most people just do not do anything about that unless it's directly their issue. In the worst case, actually, some people do wrong things. So that's one thing that we might want to think about. We should not be, in general, I think people should not be afraid of taking risks. We are successful business because we were willing to take risks, and the risks were very large. And we were partially lucky, and also we did good job. So that's why our algorithmic trading, market-making business has been successful. This is not to advocate gambling, by no means. But it is good to think about that life is risky, and we have to be able to accept certain risks in order to be successful. If we are not able to accept risks and we want everything for sure, for certain, then we will end up badly in the end, for sure. We will for sure end up wrongly. A big problem of Europe is populism, political populism. It's not only in Europe, it's also in the United States. It might also be the case in Russia. Politicians, the motivation of politicians is short-sighted. It's for the next few years, especially in Europe, and it is a problem for the voters. Voters get confused, and I think it is good for people who study, who have good brain, to explain to others that populism is wrong and that you should not listen to politicians. Problem in Europe is, some of you may disagree, but I think this is one of the problems in Europe, that people are just used to excessive social benefits. Of course, we need social benefits. If somebody is a retired person who has been working for 50 years or 40 years for the society, he or she should get certain benefits, should have a good life. We should take care of people who are disabled, etc. Nevertheless, it is a big problem if you have a 20-year-old kid or 30-year-old person, and those people just do not want to work and they rely on social benefits. That's a big problem. Now, corruption. Here I say corruption is a theft. It is probably clear to everybody in this audience. Nevertheless, in my experience, in my country, in the Czech Republic, and it might be the case in Russia as well, many people do not, or in the past, did not consider corruption to be a severe problem. Many people would say, okay, it's probably not right, but it is part of the business. We have to just live with that. In the worst case, people would say, we have a proverb in the Czech Republic, if you, from communism, still old, from old time of communism, the proverb would be, if you do not steal, you steal from your family. And that's absurd. That's absurdly wrong. So I think that it is important to explain to everybody, to speak about, to talk about corruption as being a big theft. Actually, I'd like to say that it's a worst kind of theft, and it is also parasitism. So those who corrupt the country, those who steal, are parasites. And we are, I say it loudly and openly, and it takes, it might be a little bit risky, but what can we do? So, we would like the economy to function. I'm also an economist, so money is blood of the economy. We need, of course, we need state as well. We need somebody to control the economy. It's not, we need free market, but the market has to be regulated, that's clear. The problem is, if the blood in the economy has too many, or if the veins are, if there are too many holes, and we lose pressure, we use the power, and this is what's happening in the Czech Republic, and I am afraid this has also been happening in Russia. So we need to fix the holes. So what does corruption cause? Increasing taxes, increase deficit, lower quality of roads, lower quality of education. In fact, corruption is one of the big problems of corruption. It's not only the direct cost. That's good to realize. One could say, okay, if one person steals money from the other person, the money actually does not disappear. Well, actually, if it's a big corruption, it does disappear, because those corruptors, those people who steal money from state, would, at least in the Czech Republic, the case is such that they have the money abroad. The money, it just leaks out in tax havens. The money does not come back to the economy. Part of it may come back, but there is another effect of corruption, and the big problem is I forgot the term now. Inefficient allocation of capital. Okay, so in economy, if you want to be efficient, you allocate your capital based on your marginal utility. So how much marginal utility does the product provide you? That's how much capital you allocate, so that the last marginal utility is equal to the capital which you allocate. Problem of corruption is that you do not invest in areas where it's needed. For example, education, science, research. Those areas are under financed, and you do invest in areas where you can steal a lot of money. That's the motivation. So the capital is being attracted to places where you can steal a lot, and you do not have enough capital in research, education, health, perhaps, and science. So this is a bloodsucker. Bloodsucker is a corrupter. Okay, so those who steal money are parasites, and I keep saying that very loudly. And if I say it, some people get embarrassed because they know that they are involved in corruption, and they do not want to hear that. Okay, and that is why I think it's important to say it loudly. So then, if most people realize that being a corrupter means being a parasite, being a bloodsucker, then it might change a little bit, because not everybody wants to be a criminal. Okay? Speaking about criminals, what do you think? Is a criminal a bad person? Well, yes, we think a criminal is a bad person, but what about the criminals? What do criminals think about themselves? That's a very interesting psychological knowledge, psychological observation. That even if you take the worst criminal, a killer of kids, the criminal himself does not think that he is a bad guy. He thinks it's okay. Another psychological example I can give you, in 60s, there has been a very good psychological study done in the United States, where a professor of psychology would take students, graduate students, smart people like you. Half of the students, randomly chosen half of the students, were as prisoners, and the other half were as prison guards. And he will tell them, okay, you should play the game, you behave like in prison, you are prison guards, you have to take care of them, you have to obey, you have to make them obey, etc. What would happen in a few days, you wouldn't believe it. It was the case that the prison guards would almost torture the prisoners. And those were regular people. Okay? And they came to the conclusion that it is okay. Why I'm speaking about that? I'm speaking about that for people to realize that actually our psychology can be abused, extremely abused. We know if we speak about Nazism, the Second World War, those Nazis, they were not necessarily everybody of them a psychopath. They were just completely brainwashed. And it is surprisingly so easy to brainwash people, even as young students. This was a very good experiment. That is very dangerous. In fact, the experiment became very dangerous, and the professor of psychology even did not want to stop it. It ended up such a way that the wife of the professor came in, and she said, "What are you doing? This is crazy. You have to immediately stop it." Okay, so people get involved. If it's gradual, people get involved, and they are willing, they are able to do anything. Another psychological example. There was a test done in the 60s where a person, there was an actor sitting in a chair, and people were tested, and they were asked to punish the person with high voltage. It started, I mean, the person in the chair, it was an actor, was supposed to remember something, a word or whatever. And if the person answered wrongly, the subject that was tested would give him a shock, electric shock. It started with 12 volts, nothing major. It ended up, the maximum was 360 volts, and there was like a skull on the button that you kill the person. And the goal or the test was such that the psychologist wanted to manipulate the person all the way to kill the person in the chair, seemingly kill. So how many people do you think were willing to go all the way to the end, to put 370 volts?
Except one.
Okay, so it's very pessimistic, all of them. It was not all of them, it was only 60%. Okay, so this is, but then if you imagine, you can manipulate people to kill somebody else. It's terrible. There is a question from you, please.
I just wanted to point out that actually very few people wanted to kill other people because they were truly manipulated. These psychologists, they were telling that this voltage is not is for good, that it's not dangerous for the guys, and it was documented that those who were torturing, they were truly unhappy about that. They didn't want to do it. They were just pushed by the psychologist. So, well, there is an opinion that maybe people are not so bad. They didn't want to behave bad, actually. But there was a guy who was a scientist and who was telling them that it is good to do so.
That is true. You are right. They were manipulated, they were completely brainwashed, but it's the same like Nazis, right? They were being brainwashed, they were told that it is good to kill Jews or whatever. And they were unhappy, you are right there. But it's, the result is that they would put the highest voltage, and the actor in the chair was a good actor, so he was showing that he's being tortured or the pain. So, no, nevertheless, the psychology of a criminal is that he or she does not necessarily think that he's a criminal. And that's a problem of corruptors in our country. That's why I'm speaking about that. The corruptor, they think that it's okay, it's normal, that they would be stupid if they did not misuse their power. And I think that for all of us, the good thing or the motivation is to speak loudly, to say loudly that this is wrong, and psychologically we can help those people to came to their senses. A case study, Czech Republic, $50. That's the total amount of corruption per person per month, not per year. Okay, that's an estimate, and it's a relatively good estimate. $50 per person for any person, including retired, including kids. So imagine how much it is. If you have two kids, 2 adults, it's $200 per family on average. So it is very bad. The volume is just enormous, and the economic results are drastic. This is the total sum per Czech Republic. We are 10 million people. I don't know how much the corruption is in Russia, but I am afraid it might be in similar terms. It might not be. Perhaps your country does not feel it that much yet. And the reason being that you still have privatization. In our country, what would happen is that we had corruption. It started. We had Velvet Revolution in '89, and the corruption started in late 90s. And there was this big amount of corruption, a lot of stealing. Nevertheless, the stealing was done through privatization. So the state would privatize state ownership. It would sell, so-called sell. It would sell cheaply to known people, etc. But at least this was the case that the state ownership was privatized, and the new owner, regardless how he got it, might want to take care about the private capital, the private factories, etc. So the economy would not directly feel that. For common people, it was not that visible. Nowadays, we are already after privatization. In order to steal money, to corrupt now, you have to raise taxes, increase deficits, etc. And this is what's happening. And that is why it is becoming a big problem if the economy is feeling it directly now. You still, again, in your country, maybe there is a lot of state ownership to still privatize, but in my country, it is by raising taxes, and we feel it, people feel it. We keep raising taxes, increasing deficit, having lower quality of work, etc. And this is not sustainable. So, 6 billion US for 10 million people. This is 50,000 ambulances, 333 kilometers on roads, and you can find different examples, 14,000 mammographs. So in fact, if you think about it from this point of view, because of corruption actually, some people die. So having a corrupt country and stealing, somebody being a corruptor actually means indirectly being a killer in the end. Okay, so that's a very serious thought. So for the future, and I will be speaking what we do as an endowment against corruption in a moment, but what is the general goal for the future? So I think that the basic point is that every person should try to find his sense, meaning his or her mission in his or her the English word poslání, mission. Your mission. What gives you your destiny? What gives you a good sense of life? What gives you joy? How you want to make money? And it doesn't have to be that everybody cannot be rich, but everybody wants to be happy, of course. Everybody wants to have a good life. So the goal is just to find what you want to do, not what somebody else tells you to do. And if many people realize that, then you will. I know from people who I know, those who steal, those who are thieves, they are not happy after all. So this is the goal. In order to reach some better state, reach better goal, we have a few basic factors, few basic words. The first of them being transparency. Transparency of everything. Okay, that is a key word. Especially a good example in my country is the transparency of public tenders, transparency of ownership. What is actually happening now, we as the Endowment Against Corruption, we are now in fight with ministry about public tenders, because the ministry does not want to have transparent tenders, and that's a big problem. It's not only about public tenders. Transparency in decisions is important. If you think about, for example, financial crisis, we take United States. What was the cost? What was the basic cost of financial crisis? So it was debt. It was living on debt. And how comes that the financial crisis could blow up into such a huge problem, losing trillions of US dollars? Well, the secondary reason, the big factor behind was non-transparent decision making. if we take financial institutions, mortgage institutions, etc., their goal was, the goal of the managers, of the people in charge, was to maximize their own profits, their own bonuses. Okay, and in order to do so, they actually created different kind of instruments, CDOs, CSOs, etc., so that they could hide the problem, so that they could hide the debt. And again, transparency is what was missing. The second thing that's important is courage. And you need it here in Russia even more than we in the Czech Republic, perhaps. Person responsibility and courage. This is, I made a jump a month ago, and it certainly does take a courage to jump out. And it might take even more courage to do something active and to take some risks. So it takes courage to burn off these bloodsuckers. Now, a pen. So, what happened to the pen?
Might need to click again the link.
A při cestách po Latinské Americe zavítal prezident Václav Klaus i do Chile, kde se mu mimo jiné zalíbilo i tamní protokolární pero.
So, leaders should be leaders of the country, okay? And we have a very good leader. Our first president, Tomáš Masaryk, in 1980, was a brave person. And you will see in a moment what is the statement of Tomáš Masaryk. And we should have the courage to call leaders to responsibility.
Dobrou noc.
Good night.
Stačila minuta a je globální hvězd. Stačila minuta a je...
Okay, so it's gone. So, endowment against corruption. This is what I started a year ago. I could not look at it anymore. Okay, it was just too much what was happening in my country. And the reason why I decided to take the responsibility is because I want to avoid rules. So we are active now in several activities. Here is our leader. In 1980s, the first president of Czechoslovakia, at the time Czechoslovakia, now we are Czech Republic. And this was his statement. Have no fear and don't steal. So, the endowment against corruption takes his words, have no fear and don't steal, and we update it with the current situation. Never steal without fear. What's the problem? Why never steal without fear? Well, we certainly do not think that we will get rid of thieves. There will always be some criminals who take risks. If you have a criminal, he takes a gun and comes into a bank and shoots somebody and tries to steal money, okay, let be it. Those are criminals who are crazy, and most likely they will get caught or killed. And if not, if you watch an adventurous movie, you may even become subconsciously a fan of such a criminal. That's fine. It's a big risk. The problem being that corruptors steal without fear because they don't take any risk. And that is a big problem, and that's what we, as the Endowment Against Corruption, that's what we are trying to change. So we have several activities. One of the major activities, this is how we started, is the whistle. And the whistle stands for whistleblowing. You know who whistleblower is? Okay, so a whistleblower, whistleblower is a brave person, first of all. In my country, is an extremely brave person. In Russia, I would expect that it would be a very brave person as well. Okay? So we had a very good example, famous example of whistleblower who got a prize from our endowment, relatively big prize, approximately 30,000 or 35,000 US dollars for him doing whistleblowing. And his whistleblowing does have an impact. One of the officers from one of the state employees is now facing court charges, and one of the ministers might actually face court charges as well. So this is a big success. We as the endowment try to support, try to motivate people to do whistleblowing. We will actually be giving another prize shortly. Second activity is law. We are very active in legal terms. I already mentioned there is a current fight between us and the Ministry of Minister of Regional Development about the law on public tenders. The Minister of Regional Development, I said it openly last Thursday on TV, on Czech TV in the morning, I said openly that it is clear, in my opinion, that the Minister of Public Affairs is corrupted. I said it on TV, okay? Because the law, the public tenders law that the Minister of Public Affairs gave is just wrong. It does a little bit, but it does not solve the main issue, and there's the transparency. So the problem being that if you have a big public tender, a company that buys it perhaps has to, okay, the company is obliged to say who the owners are, but if the owner is an empty shell, another company, that's it, that's resolved. We as the Endowment Against Corruption gave actually specific paragraphs, the law in paragraphs, how to go all the way to the last owner, to the so-called beneficial owner, so that it was clear who the beneficial owner of the public tender is. We might not succeed, it's a fight now, but we are making a big mess about that, and it is a big problem now for the corruptors. In fact, we are getting political support, and even if the ministry makes his law now, we got a promise from one government party that they will fight against it, that they will propose amends, etc. So that's our activity in legal terms. So it's a specific laws. Another activity, important activity, is investigation. We give grants, we support a private investigation. The goal of the investigation is to, whistleblowing, we give, if somebody has information, we might give him money to investigate and to call and to provide proofs about corruption. This is still running. We still do not have any specific results, like we do have results of this law. We have another law which we did about transparency, about illegal or not illegal, about anonymous shares. So we made a law as the Endowment Against Corruption, how to cancel anonymous shares. There are two big laws that we made. Here we are supporting private investigation. It is running, and we are hoping that we will have good results within a few months. And last but not least, we are supporting, we are supporting the raise of moral standards. When I speak to you, I speak to some people, to more people. We are trying to say that the corruptor is a wrong person, that it is a theft, that it's a parasitism, etc. So that people realize that. You wouldn't believe it, but in my country, up until a few years ago, people actually did not care too much. they were, as I already have said, they would think that corruption is part of the business. So this is something that, that definitely needs to change. Fortunately, we are not the only ones. We are not the only ones in the Czech Republic who is becoming active. There are many more civil societies groups. I would say one example. One example is Andrej Babiš. Andrej Babiš is a Czech billionaire. It's the second or third most richest, or the second or third richest Czech in our richest Czech. And this guy actually, a few months ago, decided to go against corruption. So he is starting a new civil platform. He is putting big money behind, and his motivation was, and he said it openly. His motivation was when he saw on Czech TV our president, who would say that corruption is not a problem. So this was a motivation for Andrej Babiš to start his platform and to go against corruption very actively. So things are moving, and I hope, and that's why I hope that the results will be successful. Let me also say one thing about, actually, I'll go back slightly, about whistleblowing. Problem in my country was that when the first major whistleblower appeared a year ago, some officials would say that this whistleblower is a squeaker, that it's somebody who is just bad person, who simply a squeaker. Okay. This is absurd. This is totally absurd. Some people in high position would try to abuse, to manipulate people, and they will try to abuse the older times of communism. What would happen? At that time, you had somebody who was working as against the regime, who was a brave person, and a squeaker would tell authorities what this person was doing. The squeaker was a person who wanted to have extra advantages, to have money, etc., for his action. Now, some people in politics would actually misuse this term, and they would say, okay, this guy who did whistleblowing, who found the proofs of corruption, and he said it openly, who said it publicly, is actually a squeaker. That's absurd. That's totally absurd. So I would like to stress once more that the whistleblower, somebody who does action against corruption, is actually a hero. And this is something why I speak about it, because in my country we could see in the press that people were totally confused. They did not realize that the whistleblower is actually something very positive. So when and how will be resolved corruption? I show you some activities, and I will be happy to answer your questions about the specific activities of our anti-corruption endowment. Now, however, the corruption will not be resolved until most people understand what I will just be saying, that corruption is a big theft, is worse theft than robbery. Okay. And now let me answer the question. Why do you think that I said that corruption will end within 5 years in my country? So there are two options. Okay. The positive option is that people will realize that it's a robbery, and they will stand against it, and the politicians just will not be able to manipulate people anymore. That's the first option. And then we will get rid of the big corruption this way. Or the second option is that we will be in ruins. There won't be anything left to steal. And I'm very serious about that. That is the economic argument. When we had corruption in the 90s, it was also partially privatization. Now, we as a country do not have anything else to privatize. And so the big corruption that we have now, it just kills the economy. Okay, so that's the second option. And now what about the second question? So what is worse, bribery or corruption? Or is it the same? Who thinks that it's the same? Well, then I'm sure that everybody, excuse me, okay, one person. So I'm sure that everybody thinks that corruption is worse than bribery, or somebody thinks that bribery is worse. Okay, please.
Maybe corruption contains bribery.
Exactly. Well, actually, no, sorry, vice versa. Bribery is a more generic term, okay? So corruption, by definition, is that somebody gets bribes and does things that are bad for the society or for the institution that he or she represents.
Not only bribes. Maybe he get on the hook some familiar people. So
Yes. Yeah, okay. From this point of view, okay, that's true. But I understand your point. But okay, is a bribe always necessarily a very bad thing? Moral is definitely always bad, a bribe. But economically, you can find situations where a bribe actually is not bad. Okay, and this is I say that because I already had I met several statements that would say, well, corruption is part of the economy, and actually it is also sometimes it helps because it gives you an extra oil into the wheels of economy, so they can function better. This is extremely a big lie, extremely misleading and manipulating. What is, on the other hand, could be true, that if you take a bribe, imagine a situation when there is a businessman, he needs to get extra paper, there is an extra regulation which just makes no sense for the specific case of the businessman. And then what the businessman does, he needs to, and let's say that the state official knows that the regulation is indeed a nonsense. Okay, so the businessman, okay, the state official says, okay, well, I know it's a nonsense, but it's risky for me, so the businessman gives bribe. In this case, the bribe is not moral, but it it's not corruption, because the official does not move against the interests of the institution that he or she represents. Okay, so from this point of view, bribery is a more generic term. Corruption is a special kind of bribery that's always wrong. And what you are saying, that the bribery or the corruption doesn't have to be in monetary terms, we could define bribery as being also with other means. Doesn't have to be necessarily bribery with monetary terms. Okay? So if we define bribery more generally, then we will have bribery as a set, and corruption as the worst subset of bribery. Okay? Okay, so social networks, information revolution. I, for myself, I am usually an optimist. I'm always an optimist. However, if there were no internet, if there were no social networks, etc., I would say that we are just at that time. That's it. We cannot change anything anymore. Well, what is the problem? The problem being that if you have an information, a negative information spreads very quickly, very fluently. If you turn on TV, most of the information is negative. From some reason, people are attracted to listen to negative information. If you open newspapers, also the information is negative. Thanks to the current world, thanks to the internet, thanks to social networks, actually even the positive information can spread. Of course, it's never 100%. You do not know if the information is 100% reliable. But you do get a spread of positive information. You can connect people. So you can have fans, people discuss, they give you advice. We as the endowment, we have a lot of fans. I would like to give example of another businessman of the Czech Republic, Martin Hausenblas, who is from one city, Ústí nad Labem, in the Czech Republic. He started a social network, and he was so successful that he actually stopped corruptors in the city from doing their theft. simply by starting a social network, connecting few people, the people would communicate through Facebook, and they would come, they would go in the street, and they would say, no, this is wrong, we want to stop this. Okay, so he actually managed to stop tunneling of the city, and tunneling specifically tunneling, those stealing tunneling was done, was planned to done through building tunnels. A lot of tunnels which are expensive and that are of no use. So he actually managed to stop that. And also the social networks have might help the society a lot. In his city, people would go and they would actually clean their street, etc. So this is a very extremely good example. So I believe that this is the chance for us in the future. If you know something is wrong, you can share it, or if you know something that is good and that should be done, you can share it. You can find friends and buddies and etc. on social networks. So that's the chance for the future. Again, I don't think the world is too far. It's having big problems. We are facing debt. Europe, United States, big debt. It's a Ponzi scheme of debt, but people need to change simply, and the information revolution helps a lot. Freedom, personal freedom, being the key principle. I have talked about corruption, how we try to deal with that, but of course, freedom is the basic value. We do have freedom in the Czech Republic. Fortunately, I can be here. Maybe they will try to shoot me at some point, but at least I can freely speak. They cannot do anything, even if many government officials in the Czech Republic already hate me. But we have freedom. Now, we should certainly make sure that we do not lose our freedom of speech, etc. It's very important. And so this is the motivation. Let me. How can we succeed as people all over? In my opinion, what we need to do, we need to be able to relax. To relax our minds. People who are able to relax, it's my experience, it is my opinion, do not do things that are harmful, because it's just not worth for them. And in order to relax your mind, it might be helpful to relax your body. So I say, okay, do sports, do different kind of activities, simply relax. Or do meditation, it's also good. For example, the guy from Ústí nad Labem, he came to his sense through meditation. He went into a desert. He stayed, I think, 1 month in desert and meditating, and then he came to his conclusions. So thank you very much for your attention, and now I will be very happy to answer your questions, specific questions about the endowment against corruption. By the way, you mentioned that we were giving grants for research. That's actually second endowment. I have 2 endowments. I have one endowment against corruption, and I have another. I started 2 years ago. I started endowment for support of research and science, and the second endowment is giving grants to scientists. And if you have any questions about the company, what it's doing, why the business is successful, of course, I'll be happy to answer as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Karel. Maybe you want to ask some questions, please.
I actually have 2 questions that are somewhat related. You, in one of the first slides, you mentioned that free market is good, but it should be regulated to benefit people. There are a lot of outcry. Well, not exactly outcry, but a lot of ideas on, especially after the financial crisis, that governments should prohibit high frequency trading.
Yes.
Maybe not prohibit, but increase tax on the transactions, so like to make this activity unprofitable and go away. So the question is, what do you think about these both proposals?
I can give you a quick answer. I don't think we'll be able to go into the financial economic details in that. This thing, what should be regulated? What should be regulated is the moral hazard. Okay, what should be regulated if there is a big institution and a manager, and the manager acts in such a way to maximize his profit and does things that are not good for the institution. That's called moral hazard. It's not corruption in this sense, but it's a moral hazard. That happens a lot. This, what you mentioned, just is pure populism. It's a complete nonsense. We cannot explain in much detail. But for example, there are different arguments why, for example, high-frequency trading could be harmful. Of course, you can have somebody doing high-frequency trading trying to manipulate markets. That's wrong. But you don't need to have frequency trading to manipulate markets. On the other hand, for example, what RSJ does is market making. We trade high-frequency trading, but we trade as market makers. And this is extremely useful. This is useful for everybody. It's useful for the exchange, and the proof is very simple. For the exchange is actually paying us extra money to the company for what we are doing. So the exchange is paying us money for our high-frequency trading, for market making. The arguments against high-frequency trading, the first argument usually is that high-frequency trading increases volatility. It's not true. That is simply not true. What does high-frequency increase is liquidity. If you have a market that is illiquid, that it's confusion. The confusion might be that the illiquid market is not volatile. Well, it is volatile. You do not see trades, okay? So you have a market. If you want to make a trade, you would see the correct price. And the correct price, some kind of equilibrium price, is of course volatile. If you have a market that is liquid, you can see a lot of trades. The price moves, but the volatility is not decreased. You just can see the volatility. That's a big difference, okay? So high-frequency trading might help you to see the volatility by making the market more liquid, but it definitely does not increase volatility. Okay, so introduction of taxes like Tobin tax, even though stickless is a big favor, it just doesn't make any sense. What it will do, and actually this was already done in Sweden in early 90s. They introduced the Tobin tax. They had to abandon it very quickly within 1 or 2 years because it would cause the collapse of the system. If the European populists indeed get to introduction of Tobin tax, of the transaction tax, what will happen first is that all business will move elsewhere to Asia, maybe United States. So they will, so it will just hurt the economy totally. And so regulating high-frequency trading, well, again, it makes sense to regulate any kind of moral hazard. Also, it does make sense to regulate the styles of trading. It is true that one should not manipulate markets, but usually people who try to manipulate markets do not do so through high-frequency trading. Doesn't help you. Also, it makes sense to regulate so-called flashing of orders. Okay, so some people want to misuse the system by making order in and out very quickly. So you place a limited order and you cancel it immediately so that nobody can trade. And the only purpose being trying to confuse the others. That certainly should be regulated. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that high-frequency trading should be somehow restricted. Thank you.
What would you do if you, for example, couldn't speak on TV about things in government, for example, and you couldn't, you had no access to TV, and if you write article in newspaper, magazine, for example, 200,000 people read it, and these 200,000 people already know everything about this. And 95% of your country, of people of your country don't know about these facts, and they are living apart from capital, apart from capital, and what to do?
Yes, very good question. In the Czech Republic, we are lucky. I can speak on TV, and I got invited. It is from this point of view, it's good. What you are saying, I understand that it could be in other countries that this could be a problem. Well, again, the answer could be the social networks, the internet. Okay, because if you have information, if it's positive, it can spread exponentially. So you say, okay, we start a group. A private group that spreads information, and it is exponential growth. Everybody knows few more people, and if people can see that the situation is really bad, you do visible. For example, you say this is how the theft was done. Tell everybody else through the internet, through the social networks. It can spread. Again, if we say a situation 15 years ago, there would be no chance. As you say, they would not let you on TV, and those people who know is a close subset. But now we have a good chance. Until the internet is somehow regulated and prohibited, like in some countries, but it's already it's very few countries that regulate the internet.
By the way, you mentioned very, I think, dangerous thing that the President of the Republic denies the existence of corruption at all.
Yeah.
At least our president will say that, yeah, we have it.
Medvedev, yeah, actually, I know that Medvedev in April last year, he announced a program against corruption, right here. I don't know, it's probably not too successful, but at least he did admit that. In fact, it was on Tuesday about a month and a half ago, where our president, he would not deny corruption, but he would say, it's a lot of mess, but it's this standard, it's like elsewhere, and I would like to see the direct proofs. It's just a big talks about that. And this is something that actually prompted me to write an article that said that, strong words, let's say, and it prompted, yes, and actually, you know, it was an interesting consequence. It was in early beginning of September when he said that on TV. I was at the time in the US, and I wrote an article, sent it from my laptop, and President was speaking in Brno to students, and one of the students asked him, well, what about the endowment against corruption, etc. And he would say something that the endowment against corruption is just a complete nonsense. It is so-called anti-corruption is just something fancy who doesn't make sense. And this prompted Andrej Babiš to start, the second richest guy, to start his civil action, or his platform. He started the civil platform. It's now being started. He will announce it officially on the 17th of November. So in 10 days, it's already known that he will start it, but he will announce officially what it will do. We will cooperate. He might even start a political party at one point. Yeah, so it was interesting consequence of events.
And you mentioned that President have a meeting with the students. I'm sure that you also talk a lot with the young people all over the country. Yeah.
Yes.
How are they responsive, and how many последователи? What's this? Followers.
Yes. This is actually quite very positive, because smart people understand the problem of this situation. It's not only me. There are many groups I mentioned Martin Hausen, but there are several groups of people who are very active and who really want to change the society, and who have it as their purpose, as their mission. So this is it is our country, and it's not probably only our country. I think it's all over. There is a big tension, because there's on one hand we have huge economic problems. We have debts, a Ponzi scheme of debts. People are going into streets, you know, in the Wall Street protests against whatever financial institutions, which my RSJ is also a financial institution in the end. So people protest against banks who misuse the system. So there is a big tension, and Also, there are many people actively working and using social networks. I'm participant in several social networks who really want to change the system. So I think that the current situation is very unstable, and we'll see what happens in the future, in the short future. I don't think that it will take too long. Within few years, I think there will be some major change, not only in the Czech Republic, but all over in Europe and perhaps even in Russia. That's my prediction, that the situation is not stable. And I would like that's why I speak about it. I think that it is good for people to realize what is their purpose, what is their goal in life, and to realize, and I can say it from my view, I realized that after I became rich, that it's not the goal to become rich. It doesn't help you, it might help a little bit, but it's not something that gives you your purpose of life. It helped me to think about it more, because I realized, okay, now I'm rich, so what? What can I do now? Am I more happy? Well, not really. So you should do something, maybe you could do something more purposeful, and for that, you don't necessarily have to be rich. It might help somebody to realize that. On the other hand, many rich people that I know in the Czech Republic, some of the billionaires are just people who steal and steal and steal, and even if they have 20 billions, they want another billion, so they keep stealing again. I'm talking about billions of Czech crowns, so let's say 1 billion US, okay? So those people are just crazy. They are fighting for being the richest guy in the world, or I don't know what their purpose of life is. I feel sorry for them. Okay, I feel sorry for those rich people who do this kind of, who do these things. On the other hand, Andrej Babiš, the second richest guy I mentioned, he was, his past was, let's say, questionable. Okay, in 90s, he made a lot of money through privatization. It was certainly not clean, but he completely changed his view after seeing the situation. As for myself, I was lucky in the sense that I could start the endowment without too much risk, because our business is 100% transparent. We are completely independent of the state. The state cannot do anything. The officials are just upset, but they cannot do anything. If they send tax controls, it's laughable. We are being regulated as a company. We are regulated by MiFID, by the general European anti-money launderer, etc. So we are regulated to the last cent. We are regulated by the Czech National Bank as a Czech institution. So the other Czech institution or the other Czech they cannot simply do anything. Andrej Babiš is running a big risk. He has 250 companies under his control in the Czech Republic, and by doing his activities against corruption, he actually did upset a lot of guys as well, and they are trying to find things against him. You probably had examples in Russia as well. Okay.
Do you know the example of Navalny in Russia?
Yes. Yeah, we talked about, yes. He's a mathematician as well. No.
He's a lawyer.
Yes.
Any questions? More? Please, Andrei.
And I'm interested in whether you have some kind of cooperation with other European countries in your fight against corruption. Are you planning to
support or
some cooperation?
Cooperation. Well, the government against corruption. I started it a year ago, but it's an interesting story. It took me 4 months or more, 4 months to start it officially, because when I say it's relatively new, okay? It's actually quite interesting story. When I wanted to register endowment against corruption, the clerk would deny it, and the clerk would say that this is not in public interest. That was so ridiculous. So it was actually a fight from the very beginning to even start this anti-corruption activity. To your question, we are relatively new. We focus on the situation in the Czech Republic, and we have not yet got to these international connections. We certainly do not have support from European Union. In fact, most of the money is my money in the anti-corruption endowment. We do have support from people as well. So we still do not, but in the future we probably should, yeah.
Please tell us one or two examples when you actually fought the corruption and you won.
Or investigate. Yeah?
Against, yeah, like you really face the corruption? Did you ever face the corruption?
Me personally not, because as I explained, my company trades internationally, and it's not related to the Czech state at all, which is the motivation that that I said, okay, I have the money, I have the opportunity. I'm not running such a huge risk as another businessman. So this is, and also I don't have the bad history. Yeah, so
You have never bribed anyone.
I have never bribed anyone. No. And so directly, I could not even face corruption because I have never come to contact with state officials. Yeah, but I know, of course, of many cases, real cases, and what is happening. In fact, in the Czech Republic, probably it might be a little bit similar to Russia. A lot of the big corruption is public secret. People know who steal. There are even cases that some people would be called into court, but the court would be stopped because, etc. Yeah, so the facts about the corruption are just clear on the table.
And you appeal to the changes in minds, and actually
Yes.
you appeal to our audience, yeah, for responsibility, for leadership in this life.
Yes.
Yeah? But what about some kind of program that one can just put on the table of the politicians, kind of institutional reforms, or some steps towards public administration reform?
Yes,
There's
yes.
new management governance in state. Yeah,
This is
already I would say built in. It should be transparency, openness, accountability. What about this?
at this point we did the legislation steps. And we keep pushing the transparency to the politicians. They don't want to get it, but there are disputes about that. The general reforms, not only about corruption, but general transparency, etc. This is actually this is the activity of Andrej Babiš. That's his new platform. His new platform is more general. It's not only corruption. Corruption is part of that, but all the things that you mentioned actually are his goals. Yeah.
So, thanks a lot. Andrej, please.
Are you planning to build a political career in the Czech Republic?
I'm not planning to start a political party. I don't know. I leave this question. I do not want to become a politician. If I was last few weeks, I would go to the parliament to talk to some of the politicians. And if you see what, I really do not want to waste time there because it's extremely inefficient. So it's better to go through civil society. Okay, maybe in the future, I don't know what happens. Yeah, but I'm not planning to at this point.
Dear friends, I think it's so appealing and so inspiring example, yeah? Real example of how you can change lives of others and about your personal goal settings, goal approachings, and what are the main, what we do. Я тоже забыл слово. Какие главные ценности в жизни?
Values.
The main values in our lives.
Yes, yes.
Karel, thanks a lot. We want you to be very successful, not only in your trading, algorithmic trading career,
Maybe they will stop it.
but also with both of your foundations. Thanks a lot, and we will love to know more about your success. And I think that maybe in this audience there will be people who will follow your path and somehow give back to the society. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.